Hello and welcome to How to Fill Your Rooms in the Low Seasons or whenever you want with me, Yvonne Halling, bedandbreakfastcoach.com. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. Have a pen and paper ready to take some notes. Switch off all of your other distractions, of course, so you can pay full attention. Participate in this presentation. I don't want this just to be a one-way conversation with just me talking to the screen, but I want you to ask questions and comment as we go along, and I'll be here at the end to answer your questions and give you any help that you need. All right, so first things first, we did a survey recently, and in that survey we found that 74.65% of owners said filling their rooms in the low season is their number one challenge, and 58.1% said paying commissions to online travel agents is their number two challenge. So who is this for? This is for you if you're new to this hospitality business and you want to know how to manage the potential drop-off in income during the low seasons, or you've been in business for a while now but you still feel challenged by the boom bust cycle of the high season low season, or you've been running a successful business for several years but you still experience a drop in income that you don't seem to be able to control. This is not for you if you're looking for a magic pill or a quick fix that will kind of rain money down on you without you doing any work, and you're not prepared to make some changes to the way that you do things right now to get different results, and you're not interested in learning new skills and investing in yourself. So with that said, specifically, here are the takeaways from this presentation. I'm going to show you why you may be operating under an outdated business model and the consequences of that. I'm going to show you how the way you see yourself truly does impact your experience and your guests' experience and the results that you have. I'm going to show you how relying on online travel agents can be a huge risk for you, and the number one thing that needs to be in place to fill your rooms in the low seasons, high seasons, rainy seasons, or whenever you want, which will virtually guarantee your success. So if you're interested in that, I'm also going to show you some case studies with some clients that we've worked with and the results that they've got as well. So what makes this different? This is all proven content. This is not theory from a book that I've read. It's all proven and tested in the real world. You'll also get clarity on exactly how you can fill your rooms in the low season so you don't have to experience the financial and emotional struggles of that boom bust cycle in your business. But first, who the heck's Yvonne Halling anyway? So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to give you a quick story about me so that you know who I am and what I do for people. It all started in 2001 when I opened a little B&B business at my home in France. I was home alone with our two little girls while my husband was traveling with his wonderful job at a little champagne company that you may have heard of called Moët & Chandon. The B&B was not really a money-making project. It was really just a hobby for me so that I would be occupied welcoming guests and talking to international people while I was home with our little girls. And we didn't need the money. We just opened it when we felt like it and we closed it when we didn't. All of that changed in 2004 when my husband lost that job at Moët & Chandon through a big corporate restructuring, as they do, and we closed the B&B, rented out our home in France, and we moved back to the UK in search of new opportunities. We started an online champagne business, and we spent a fortune on a website and a back-end admin system to make the thing go. We spent another small fortune on learning how to make all of this work. We were importing small champagne producers, champagne from our friends back in France, not big brands. And it went okay. It was all right for a little while. This was back in the mid-2000s when the internet was just starting and we were kind of jumping on that bandwagon, and it was okay. But it kind of was a bit too much for us. We didn't really understand it. I think we were a little bit ahead of our time. So that business kind of fizzled out a bit, and we started another business doing champagne tastings and corporate events for mostly big banks and financial institutions around South Manchester in the UK, where we were living at the time. So you can imagine what happened in the crash of 2008, right? Well, we lost that business, and we lost all our money, and we'd lost all our savings, and in 2009 the only thing left to do to support us and to try and figure out what to do next was to cash in our pension pot. So we did that, but the final straw came in September 2009 when the house that we were renting in the UK actually caught fire, and so now we were homeless. A friend offered us a caravan, and we lived in that caravan for 4 months, and while we huddled around our little Christmas tree in December 2009 wondering what on earth had happened to us, we decided that we would go back home to France, because I knew if all else failed I could reopen the B&B and we could make some money. So January 2010 we borrowed some money from family and we moved ourselves back to our home in France. And it was just the hobby thing to begin with. You know, we were just kind of bumbling along. Guests were coming, but there wasn't really anything professional going on, to be honest with you. And then in March 2010, I answered a knock at the door to find the bailiffs there with the papers to repossess, foreclose on our French home because we hadn't paid the mortgage for a year. So I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments where you think to yourself, I can't go on like this. Something has to give. So after I picked myself up off the floor after my little pity party, I decided that I was going to make this B&B work, come hell or high water. I calculated that I needed to make 40,000 euros in order to keep my home, to put a roof over our heads and put food on the table and keep my family going. At this point, my husband was suffering from depression, and so it seemed to be all down to me. So I looked around at what other B&B owners were doing, and I asked them, what shall I do? How can I make 40 grand a year? And they said, oh, post on booking.com and you'll be fine. But you know, in some way, on some level, I just didn't want to do that. I just had a gut feeling that that wasn't going to be the right thing to do. So, have you ever heard that phrase, that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear? Well, one night when I was searching on the internet, looking at yet another webinar on marketing and then another thing on how to make businesses grow, suddenly something happened in my head. Light bulbs started going off in my head, and I suddenly realized that I did know how to make this business work, and everything that I'd learned about online marketing in that champagne business that we started when we first went back to the UK was transferable to my B&B business. And I'd love to tell you that it was all plain sailing from that moment on, but you and I both know that it's not as easy as that. I struggled with the marketing, I struggled with the systems, I struggled with the tech, but the thing that I struggled with most was the head stuff, the stuff that was going on in my head, all of the negative self-talk and all of the chatter that was going on saying, you can't do this, who are you to do this, and all of that stuff, right? But I managed to overcome it, and in that first year, I didn't make 40,000 euros. I actually made 51,195, and in the second year, I made 103,495 euros with just 4 rooms and no help from any online travel agents whatsoever. In 2013, I started Bed and Breakfast Coach in response to pretty much cries for help from other owners who were struggling with the technology, the internet, the online travel agents, and the overwhelm of everything that the internet has brought to us. And in 2014, I developed and created the B&B Moneymaker Business Transformation Program, which is the fastest and smartest way to start, run and grow a bed and breakfast business anywhere. And since then, I've worked with clients all over the world, always online, and effected these transformations and growth in their business that they couldn't have imagined beforehand. So, how to fill your rooms then in the low seasons? Let's get to it. I want to have a bit of fun along the way here, so I want you to score yourself on some aspects of your business that I'm going to share with you on how to fill your rooms in the low seasons. So here's how it works. You score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 is the lowest, meaning, no, I don't have this, I'm not doing this, I don't know anything about this. And 10 is the highest. Yep, I understand this, I've got this, I'm doing this. And then anything in between, right? So you may have a bit of it in place, or you may have some of it and not others. So be realistic here. This isn't a competition. It's for you to assess yourself as we go along on how capable and how set up you are to fill your rooms in the low season. But trust me, it's going to be very beneficial if you're honest with yourself, okay? Because we can't learn if we think we know everything. So score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 as we go through. I will tell you when to score yourself, and then at the end we'll tot up your score and see where you're at for your own benefit. All right, okay, so first, your business model will determine your future. You may be operating on an outdated business model, and it could look something like this. You get bookings from wherever you get bookings from. You give your guests an experience and they write a review. Okay, that's a business model, and that's the model that most people are operating on these days, particularly with the rise of the platforms, the Airbnbs, for example. You post your property on Airbnb, you get bookings, and the guests come and then they write a review, and then that's the end of it. You could be listed with booking.com and you're looking like this, and you could be doing a bit of discounting as well. Okay, that comes with that business model. The next business model is looking pretty much the same, but you might have your own website. It might be managed by somebody else, you probably never touch it, and you could have some social media intermittent posting going on. And that's another business model. Okay? And of course, you will be experiencing an uptake in income during the spring and summer, and you'll be experiencing a downturn in income during the autumn or the fall and the winter. And this kind of goes up, down throughout the years, and you don't really know how to break this cycle, because you don't have much control over your revenue, the type of guests that you welcome, and most importantly, you don't have control over your customer data, because the platforms have it, not you. I'm going to show you a different business model, and this is the one that I created for myself when I went from making practically zero to making €103,495 a year consistently after 2011. This is the framework for the fastest and smartest way to start, run and grow a direct bookings hospitality business anywhere. And there are 4 elements to it: strategy, structure, systems, and scale. And we're going to talk about strategy, structure, and systems today, because this model will do 4 things for you. It will put you in a strong position in the marketplace for the guests that you specifically decide that you want to welcome, so that you can charge more for what you do. It's going to enable you to deliver a 5-star experience to your guests consistently and get more 5-star reviews. It's going to increase the amount of money that your guests spend with you, meaning more money for you and fewer guests, so less work. And it's going to control the flow of income across all the seasons, so you're no longer at the mercy of outside forces. And just as a bonus, as a 5th thing, it's going to dramatically increase your confidence in yourself and your business and your ability to fill your rooms in the low seasons. So filling your rooms in the low season begins way before the low season starts. You've got to put in some foundational work. It's like building a house first, all right? You can't attract bookings for the low seasons if you haven't got any foundations in place and you're operating on one of the first two business models that I just showed you. We've got to put foundations in place because all good structures have strong foundations. So what are the foundations? Let's start. The starting position is strategy, your online presence. This is where you get to know who do you want to welcome and why would they choose you. You've got to get some clarity on specifically what you can offer to a specific type of guests, and then the experience that they're going to experience when they choose you. You have to get really clear on that, because in the beginning of my business, I was operating from the hobbyist mindset. This meant that I was doing all the cleaning and the laundry myself, and I wasn't very professional in my approach to welcoming guests because I didn't really care about the money. It didn't matter whether they came or not. And it was just, I was just doing it for fun, basically. The next step up on this graph, if you like, is the generalist, and this is where most people get stuck. A lot of people are doing it as hobbyists, which is actually damaging, I believe, the kind of reputation of the independent hospitality sector. But the generalist isn't a lot better. People think that they're being a professional host, but they're actually not bothered who they welcome. They haven't defined their ideal guests, and they can't deliver a consistently good experience because they don't really know what the guests want. The money and the joy and the fun is actually in the top two categories, the specialist and the expert. And it's really easy to become a specialist on your area. Anybody, any owner in a touristy destination, in a destination where people are coming for leisure, and maybe for business as well, but primarily for leisure, which is where most of our businesses are. Anybody can become a specialist on their area. It's really easy to do. Becoming an expert is where we positioned ourselves, because we had an audience of champagne lovers. We were in the Champagne region of France, and we could focus on welcoming people who wanted to experience the champagne experience and who wanted to find, small producers that the ordinary tourist would never find, because we had that network. Not everybody can become the expert, but everybody can become the specialist. And if you're clever, you can become the expert as well. It takes a bit of a mindset shift, I can promise you that, but it also takes a shift in how you operate your business and the model that you're using. So I just want to put that in your head for the moment, that the money and the fun is in the specialist and expert categories, not in the hobbyist and the generalist categories. Okay, so for your strategy then, the first part of the foundations is you need to be very clear to be seen as the expert or the specialist, to differentiate yourself from everyone else on those platforms and to differentiate yourself in the market. So here's a formula that you can write down on your notebook. We welcome this type of people who want this kind of experience. Now, it might take you a while to get to this. It doesn't happen overnight. It's maybe not come to you straight away, but I want you to work on this, because this is the foundational principle to a business that can fill their rooms in the low seasons. And you'll see why as we go along. Focus on who you welcome and the experience that they're going to have when they stay with you, talking about them, painting a picture of that, and not talking about your delicious breakfast or your crisp linens or your comfortable beds, or even the history of your property. When people land on your website or on your social media, they're asking one question, and that is, what's in it for me? So tell them about what's in it for them, not about you. Check your website after this presentation, and if it doesn't inspire you on the homepage of your website, if what you've written doesn't inspire you to come and stay, then it probably needs a bit of work. All right, how are you doing? Here's how to score yourself on the first foundational piece of how to fill your rooms in the low season. Have you defined who you want to welcome specifically? And are you clear on what you uniquely offer to those specific groups of guests. Have you got consistent messaging and branding across the web, so everywhere we look a lot online we can see that it's you? We're not in any confusion, we're not in any doubt that wherever we see you, you look and sound the same with consistent messaging and branding. Okay, so think about that. Are you still welcoming anyone and everyone? Are you not clear on what you uniquely offer, so you're not differentiated from your local competition? Score yourself on the scale of 1 to 10 and be honest, okay? 1 is no, I haven't, and 10 is yes, I have, and then anything in between is maybe I have, maybe I haven't, or a little bit, or I'm trying, or I'm working on it, or whatever. Be honest and give yourself a score so to get the most out of this. All right, let's move on. So we've covered strategy in this framework, in this perfect framework for the fastest and smartest way to start, run and grow a direct bookings hospitality business anywhere. Let's move on to the second piece, which is structure. We're still on the foundations, okay? We still haven't built the property yet. We're still not ready to fill our rooms in the low seasons. We're still working on the underpinning, if you like. Structure is delivering on the promise at your property. So when you've defined the people that you can best welcome and the experience that you're going to deliver, which is uniquely yours, then you need to work on how to deliver on that promise at your property. And that includes 4 elements: your guests, of course, your team, your finances, and how you look after yourself. So when I was working as a hobby, when I was running my business as a hobby, I didn't have any team at all. I was doing everything myself. I had nobody to do the laundry. I was doing it all myself. I was doing all the cleaning myself. And I wasn't doing any marketing at all because there was no time, and that's why I could only do it on a hobby level, because otherwise I would be too tired. I wasn't keeping track of my finances. I was making less than $10,000 a year, and as I said in the beginning, it wasn't necessary for me to make any money. It was just a hobby. But once you move up the scale to generalist, specialist and expert, you're going to need a team. Because you're in charge of your team. You need a team to support you. You want to be looking and feeling like $1 million every time you open the door to new guests. You need to be on top of your finances so that you know exactly where you are at any given moment, whether you're up or down on last month or last year even, which of your rooms are selling the most, so that you know where to make enhancements, where you can, where you need to invest your money and your time. And you need strong boundaries between yourself and your guests. Professional boundaries, so people can't violate your boundaries, they can't disrespect you, they can't arrive before you're ready to welcome them. You've got to have these strong boundaries in place and to communicate them to your guests. In effect, I became the queen of my domain and everyone knew it, okay? And that's not to be arrogant or to be self-important, but just to command that quiet confidence and respect that your guests feel that you've got their back, right? That you've got them. And to become the king or queen of your domain is really the best thing that you can do for yourself and your guests and even your family. So how are you doing on structure, the second foundational piece to filling your rooms in the low seasons? Are you consistently delivering a great experience, or is it a little bit hit and miss because sometimes you do feel tired, or guests do show up when they're not supposed to, or they don't check out on time? Have you got a team around you to support you with the cleaning and the laundry? And have you got your finances in order? Are you checking your finances on a regular basis so there's no shocks at the end of the year or even at the end of the month? And have you got those strong boundaries in place so that people are respecting you? Rate yourself between 1 and 10. Again, anything in between. Maybe you've got a bit of it right, or maybe you need to work on some of it. Just be honest and rate yourself between 1 and 10. Write that down. Okay, now we're rocking and rolling. Okay, the next piece on the framework that I developed and that I used in my own B&B and I use with all of my clients is systems. Now we're building the house. This is still foundational, but this is what's going to be seen by your guests, seen and felt by your guests. So in order to make your business work, you need strong systems in place which become the engine of your business. They are like cogs in a wheel, and there are 3 principal systems based on timeless business principles that we need to have in place in our business. And this was a revelation to me. This is what allowed me to double my business in the second year from 51,000 to 103,000. It was systems. So which systems do you need? You need a system to attract new guests. You need a system to increase the amount that your booked-in guests spend with you, and you need a system to be able to invite your past guests to return, which is about filling your rooms in the low season. So let's dig a little bit deeper into how these work. System 1 is attracting new guests. So in order for this to work, you need to have good website content and functionality for your guests. We have a website structure in one of our standalone online trainings, which I'll link to at the end of this presentation, which you can go through on your own. It's a very inexpensive training, which is the philosophy and the methodology to a website that works. You need to have, secondly, social media visibility and good content consistently. And you need to get skilled up on email marketing in order to attract new guests. Those are the 3 things that you'll need to learn and implement to have system number 1 functioning properly. So system 2 is about increasing the amount that your guests spend with you, which means upselling them before they arrive. And in order for this system to work, you need video content, email marketing again, and selling by helping them. You know, it never fails to amaze me, never ceases to amaze me when clients have this revelation, when they start offering more products and services to their guests before they arrive and people buy them. It is amazing. And you can add 20, 30, 50, 100, or maybe 200, maybe $300, pounds, euros, whatever your currency is, to the room, before they've even arrived. If you do this well, if you get this right, and you follow a structure to make this happen. It is incredible. One of our clients recently in Hawaii, he's been trolling along making $6,000 a month, and then suddenly went to 18,000 just a couple of months ago, and with no more guests. It was just incredible. So the 3rd system then is repeat bookings. And for this to happen, this is how to fill your rooms in the low season. You need to embrace email marketing, consistent communications across your platforms, across your social media accounts, and with your past guests, and then being the expert on your area or the specialist. Everybody can be the specialist on their area. Those are the 3 things that you'll need to learn and embrace and implement to get repeat bookings consistently. So, building professional relationships is the key to filling your rooms in the low season, making your business work, and not being at the mercy of outside forces. And the easiest way to fill your rooms in the low seasons, of course, is by inviting your past guests to return, even if you've never communicated with them in the past. I promise you, this is mind-blowing. But here's what not to do, right? Here's what you don't want to be doing to invite past guests to return, to fill your rooms in the low season. You don't want to be posting on social media about your vacant rooms. You don't want to be discounting your rates at all, particularly if your low season falls in the winter time when you're having to spend more money on energy to heat the rooms. You don't want to be discounting your rates because effectively you're working for less money, and no one wants that, right? You don't want to be giving any stuff away for free. I see this a lot, book 2 nights and get 1 night free. Don't do that. It devalues you. And you don't want to be running competitions for free stays either. Again, it devalues your offering, devalues you. You don't want to be doing that. And you don't want to be waiting and hoping for bookings either. That is not a strategy. So filling your rooms in the low seasons begins long before you need those bookings. So start doing this now. If you've never done this before, start doing these things now. Start collecting guest data so that you can legally email them. Not from your Gmail, not from your Hotmail, not from your Outlook. You want to be legally emailing them from a third-party piece of technology. And there are many to choose from, too many to go into here. Next, list 3 to 5 reasons that guests would enjoy revisiting in the next 4 to 8 weeks. I'm sure you can come up with 3 to 5 reasons. Often in tourist destinations, the tourist office or the association is often engaged in trying to extend the season. Jump on that bandwagon and see what you can find. 3 to 5 reasons for guests to revisit in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Next, get good at writing blog posts on each of those 3 to 5 reasons. Do a blog post for each one. Don't lump them all together. You get more bang for your buck with Google if you do blog posts on each of those reasons. Next, start a fortnightly or even a weekly email to all of your past guests, telling them about what's going on in your area, and then become the face and the voice of your area. If you can do video, then do video, because it's way more powerful than just writing. So we always incorporate video in all of our marketing campaigns with our clients, and we encourage them to do that. And it's the hardest thing to do in the beginning, but once you've started it and you've got over yourself and you've got over your fear of the camera and being seen on camera, you will love it, I promise you. Commit to getting good at making videos. I can tell you, when I started, my videos were absolutely dreadful, but they still worked. And I just got better and better, and you will too. Everyone does. Practice. And keep going forever. That's it. Just keep going. Keep doing that forever. So, time to score yourself on the systems part of your business model. Have you got a guest attraction system in place? Have you got an upselling system in place when your guests have booked in with you? And are you making consistently offers to past guests to return? Okay, rate yourself between 1 and 10. 1 is no, I don't have any of this. And 10 is yes, I've got all of it in place. In which case, you know how to fill your rooms in the low seasons already. But you're probably somewhere in between 1 and 10. So be honest and rate yourself there. So here's some clients' results. So this is Mark and June Hirschberger in Iowa in the USA. Here's what we did, and you're going to notice a theme here, right? Here's what we did with June and Mark. We accessed their past guest data. We announced a special time-sensitive getaway weekend. We wrote a description page and 3 pieces of blog content. We filmed 2 short videos, took a while, but we got it done. And we sent out an email campaign with a deadline. We did this with them. We don't do it for clients, we do it with them. So take a note of what we did, because you're going to notice a theme. And the results, $6,300 in direct bookings in under a week. Not bad, huh? First time. Here's Lynn and Jason Martin from Dorset House in Lyme Regis in the UK. Here's what we did. Notice the theme. We accessed the guest data. We announced a special package. We wrote a package description page plus 3 pieces of extra content. We filmed 1 short video, and we sent out an email campaign with a deadline. And the results? £17,000 in direct bookings in 4 days. In fact, £11,000 worth of bookings came in 1 day for Lynn and Jason. Pretty good, eh? Here's Victoria and Murray Sanderson from Mornington Rose Bed and Breakfast in Canada. Here's what we did. We accessed the past guest data. We announced a new attraction opening. We wrote 1 blog post, we filmed 1 short video, and we sent out an email campaign. Are you noticing a pattern? It's simple when you know how. And here's the result. 77 direct bookings in 11 days. 77. Amazing. But none of this was possible without the strong foundations in place in the first place. You cannot build your house on sand. It will just fall away. It will fall down at some point. You have to put the strong foundations in place first before you can start filling your rooms in the low season. So let's recap, right? I've shown you why you may be operating under an outdated business model. I've shown you how the way you see yourself, hobbyist, generalist, specialist or expert, impacts your experience and your results. I've shown you how relying on OTAs can be a huge risk for you because they keep all of the data, customer data. And the number one thing that needs to be in place to fill your rooms, whatever the season, which will virtually guarantee your success, strong foundations and good customer communication. I've shown you 3 pieces of the framework for the fastest and smartest way to start, run and grow a direct bookings business anywhere: strategy, structure and systems. So how did you do? Okay, how did you do on the 3 pieces that we showed you? There were a total of 30 points to be gained here. If you scored 10 in each of the 3 sections, you would have got 30 points. If you score between 25 and 30, you're in what we call the green zone, which is brilliant. You're doing really, really well, and you probably don't need me to tell you how to fill your rooms in the low season. And if you still do, then with a little bit of tweaking, you've probably got some strong foundations in place already, but with a bit of tweaking, you can be even stronger. If you scored between 20 and 24 points, you're in what we call the amber zone, and there is definitely room for growth here. You probably don't have strong foundations, and you probably don't communicate with people, or you don't have a strong communication system in place. And if you scored between 1 and 19 points, you're in what we call the red zone, and you definitely are going to need some help if you want to fill your rooms in the low season, and I guess you do, and that's why you're listening to this presentation. And if you want to build what I call a sustainable, profitable and professional B&B business that will support you and your family and your lifestyle for as long as you want to. So put in the comments where you've scored so that I can see where you're at. Let me know how you found this. Tell me how you're doing. I would really love to know, and I'll come and answer your questions in a little while. But if you want some more help, your next steps, you can do a couple of things here. You can grab some free resources from my website at bedandbreakfastcoach.com/free-stuff. If you're ready to get started now, if this has been enlightening for you and you've realized that you're operating an outdated business model and you haven't got strong foundations in place, then why not book an initial free consultation with me to see if you're the kind of person that we can help. And here's the link here. It's go.oncehub.com/15-minute-call. And again, Jen will be putting the link to that, I think, in the chat, which you can access directly from there. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I'll be available now to answer your questions. Hope to speak to you soon.